Welcome to American Immigration Lawyer Association, Southern California chapter, mentorship circle number 7. This is January 24th, Friday. Today we are discussing E2s, and the mentorship circle is way Southern California chapter brings members of AILA together to discuss their different practice areas. And today I have the pleasure of introducing.
Hi, I'm attorney Yael Brudner. I am an immigration attorney and I practice immigration exclusively here in Orange County.
Wonderful. Not only are you a California attorney, you're also an attorney where?
So I'm an attorney also in Israel. I was born here in the U.S., but I lived most of my life in Israel. So I went to law school there and got my license there as well.
And then you came back and you passed the bar here, right, in California?
Yes.
Was it a 3-day bar or 2-day bar?
It was a 3-day bar.
Oh my goodness, that is insane.
I'm still recovering from the nightmare, but we did it.
Super high props. That's amazing. Okay, so we want to talk about E2. We do a lot of E2s for people in Taiwan, Korea, Singapore, Japan, but you do E2s in Israel.
Right.
And it's a different ethnicity and different clientele have different needs.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about your experience. First of all, what is an E2?
Yeah, so an E2 is a great visa. It's my favorite personally. I love doing E2s. And it's a non-immigrant visa, which means it's a temporary visa. It's a treaty investor visa. So for members of treaty countries.
At least in our Taiwan and Korea, some people, they don't want a green card and they just want a non-immigrant visa for stay here for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years,
Right.
because different restrictions, right? Indonesia and Japan, once you become a permanent resident, you lose certain rights back in your home country. Is that the
Right.
case in Israel?
It's not the case in Israel. So
Okay.
in Israel, you can become a permanent resident here of the U.S. You can. Israel allows for dual citizenship, so that's not a problem. But I feel like the E2 has been really popular for Israelis because it's totally new. It just became available for Israel in May, so May 2019.
May of 2019.
Correct.
Wow.
So we've been getting a lot of inquiries from Israelis about it, and Israel, if you don't know, is the startup nation. So
Wow.
a lot of high tech and a lot of technology. And a lot of interest from Israel.
So there's so many things to talk about for E2.
Yeah.
Why don't we talk about so it's a non-immigrant visa.
Right.
It's an investor visa.
Right.
What do they have to do? How do they get an E2?
Right. So there's certain qualifications or requirements that you have to comply with in order to get an E2. And the first question I get all the time is, okay, what do I need to do to get an E2 visa?
Right.
So first of all, and the most important thing is you have to be a member, like a national of a treaty country. So not all countries are part of the treaty with the U.S.
Right.
So not everyone would be eligible for the E2. That's the most basic kind of option. And it's interesting that if you have a dual nationality, you can use either one of your nationalities.
That's right. For us, China is not a treaty country with the U.S., but
Right.
a lot of Chinese nationals are also Canadian nationals. Well,
Right.
then you can use your Canadian national to do it.
Exactly.
But there's also a second problem, and I don't know how do you get around this. One of the requirements to apply for E2 is you have to have the intent
Right.
to return to your home country.
Correct.
So how does that work? How do you deal with that?
Well, yeah, it is kind of a non-immigrant intent, so a temporary intent. So it basically is a very simple process that we just do. We comply with we submit a letter with the application stating that I declare that upon termination of my E2 status, I will return to my home country. I mean,
Yeah.
you would do it differently.
Maybe, like, let's say our clients from China who went to Canada, but they never really reside in Canada. It
Okay.
becomes a little bit tricky. So you have to do a little bit more. But yes, for my Taiwan clients, for example, who've
Right.
been there their entire life, a letter stating, yes, my entire family's here, I have bank accounts here, I have life insurance here.
Right.
Of course, I'm going to go return.
Right, exactly.
Here's the big question for the
Yeah.
E2. They have to invest and
Right.
start a company or buy a
Right.
company. How much money do they have to invest
Yeah.
to start a company?
Yeah, that's the $1,000,000 question, right?
Right.
So luckily, you don't have to invest $1,000,000. That's a different one, different visa.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get that question all the time. I mean, that's very common. How much money do I need to be qualified for the E2? So interestingly enough, the regulations don't set a dollar amount that you need to invest. What the regulations say is that you have to invest a substantial amount of capital. So you have to either have invested or be in the process of investing a substantial amount. And I feel like a lot of my clients are startup businesses that they really don't need a big capital to get their business up and going. So that's a challenge that we find with these new kind of tech companies. They can work with a laptop from their house, right? So that's a challenge where sometimes I feel like the regulation's not really caught up with the real world, but we work around it and make it work. So
yeah, we've done so many different types of E2, but now thinking about it, like doing a startup E2 with a tech company, one of the problems is going to be marginality. Right. After you invest, when are you going to be able to make the money back? Your business plan has to show for that. Right. If you just go in and say, I had a company and I'm going to be working at Starbucks, and I'm not going to take a pay, that's not going to work. Right. They have to show that your business is going to thrive. Right. But if it's a startup and they don't have clients yet, how are they going to make money?
Yeah, I think the most important thing when it's a new business, a kind of high-tech startup business, is to have a really strong and thorough professional business plan.
That's right.
Kind of showing how maybe now you're not profitable, but down the road 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, you're showing income, you're showing profit, and you're showing how your business is not just marginal. It is more than that.
So one thing I want to ask is, does Israel require the business plan to be certified by a CPA, an audit review? Because Singapore requires that. Taiwan, Korea doesn't. Japan, I don't think does. But Singapore is very specific. Not only does an attorney prepare the whole E2, but the business plan itself needs to be reviewed, audited, and certified by a CPA.
Wow. That's intense.
Yeah.
No, Israel doesn't require the business plan to be certified.
So that's a lot better.
Yeah, just a little more relaxed with that. So Joseph, can you tell us a little bit about an interesting E2 case you had recently?
Yeah, so last year, this mom came and wanted to start a business, and her children is U.S. citizen, and she wanted to do all these different things. And she has so many ideas. Their whole family, they're all entrepreneurs. They have tons of different businesses. So she's not set on one thing. I want to say in the course of 6 months, we did 4 different businesses for her.
Oh my gosh.
She wanted to start a daycare center. Started that, but the licensing process took too long, so she didn't want that anymore, so we had to close it down. Then she wanted, her kids love baseball, so she started a baseball team in San Francisco.
Okay.
She got everybody together, got the coaches, but it wasn't her thing because she's not into sports herself.
Right.
So, cancel that. And then she started an e-commerce website, full-blown e-commerce website, selling all the U.S. Sporting goods outside of the country, got the licensing agreements, and to sell Taiwan and other sport brands and bring them into the U.S.
Okay.
And part of doing that business plan was interesting. I asked her how many people would want to buy sport jerseys from other countries in the U.S.
Right.
And she said, no, for Halloween. I'm like, really? But eventually there was enough people around the U.S. that are fans from other sports, and they wanted to buy those jerseys to go to their sporting events. And I didn't know that existed, but it's a market. And so she created it and went to the interview and got her E2 by creating an e-commerce website that sold business jerseys from other countries.
That is a great story.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Yeah, it was hard. It was hard because I told her
for you guys.
e-commerce is really hard
right.
to do because how many employees do you need?
Right.
How do you prove you're going to be good enough? But
right.
she was able to import all the jerseys, have multiple storage and a lot of assets, so her finances look good. Thank you for watching. This has been a pleasure. Our contacts are below. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. This is, again, American Immigration Lawyer Association, Southern California, Chapter Mentorship Circle number 7.
Yes.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.